everybody, welcome back to Jimmy is Promo, and today is a very special video because just recently I was able to get a private exclusive tour of one of Riot Blockchain's mining facilities. Now this one is the Whinstone facility that's located in Rockdale, Texas. Now this video is split up into 3 different sections. The first section is us getting a tour and walkthrough of one of their brand new immersion cooling buildings. Now the thing that's beautiful about this building is that it's able to house thousands of Bitcoin miners that's able to be stored and running inside of liquid coolant. The second portion of this video is the interview with Riot Blockchain's CEO Jason Les and the CEO of the Whinstone facility, Chad Everett Harris. So these 2 big main dogs are there and answering 15 questions from me, and some also coming from you guys, the viewers, the watchers, coming from either YouTube questions or Twitter questions. And so I highly suggest listening to the second part if you want to learn everything of where Riot has been and where they're going and some of their future outlooks of Riot as well as Bitcoin. And then the very last portion is just one of my favorites. It's one of those things where I left it uncut, unedited. It's just raw footage of all of us in a van getting a little drive around, a little tour of the entire premises. You're able to get the backstory, the history of not only Riot, but also Whinstone, the mining facility, and just how fast they are growing, how fast they are building. It's really crazy. You're able to listen and hear everything that's brand new in the last week, the last month, and then what they're working on now for the very next building as they are now laying concrete for the next spot right next to one of the immersion buildings. So it's really cool to see just everything happening live right in front of us with this video. So as you're watching this video, if any questions or comments pop up, make sure you guys write those in the comment section below. My goal is to go back into Rockdale, Texas to take a look at the Whinstone facility just to see how much they have expanded and grown from this video. And I do want to state that this video was shot in February of 2022 and it's being uploaded on March 3rd, 2022. And then I want to see and compare it versus to whenever the next time I go out there, which again is hopefully later this year, because they are expanding and growing like none other.
Massive. Oh man. That's gonna be the second immersion building. Building F. We're gonna go right here into, I'm sorry, building G. We're gonna go right here into building F, which is our first immersion building. I'm so excited. That is what I'm talking about, Anthony. Hey man, good to see you. Thank you. That's awesome.
I love it. I love that. That is so cool.
So let's take a look at this. So basically what you're seeing is we have a 32 tank system, right? So there's 32 miners in one tank, and it's immersion, and we're using a heat exchanger. And so we pump the oil into the mirror, goes down into the heat exchanger, and we send a cold water loop out to the chiller to remove and extract the heat. This is a custom PDU that we actually build here in Rockdale, Texas. You can see actually our assembly process is right behind us. We have an entire team that just builds PDUs. They can't build them. We can't get anybody to build them fast enough, so we build them ourselves.
Nice.
And so our whole tanking system, our immersion system, and all the parts of it were designed in conjunction with ESS Metron, which Riot Blockchain acquired on December 1st, 2020. ES Metron has been here since day one. They are a medium voltage and low voltage manufacturer of electrical. Yeah, so if you can imagine, in the ground here, we have approximately 23 miles of conduit. We put everything in the ground. And we'll walk up to the end there and you'll be able to see it.
You know how many machines are in this room? How many machines are in this room?
I have to look further up to see where we are. So as you can see what we do here, we have our miner maintenance team going through all of the miners, resetting or whatever it might be. And then as you can see, and additionally, right here, you can see that we have our switchgear banked in the center of the building to reduce the amount of wire that we're using. That process allows us to create a more efficient, cost-effective system and reduce our overall construction costs. So this is all manufactured specifically for Whinstone, designed by ESS Metron in Denver, Colorado, made in America and brought here.
Wow. Yeah, this is so quiet.
All right, so then you can see here, like our team is now finished. This side here, they've put the electrical in. Now they're working on the far side over there, finishing the tanks. And then here, they're assembling the tanks over on this side, and they'll start getting the power run to that. And then that's the center of the building. So they're all the way, they've already hit that halfway point, and then they're starting to work on the other side.
Wow.
That's a lot of manpower.
So what is that, 6 bays? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? A line of 6?
Yeah.
Just going all the way down. First off, thank you for giving us the tour, showing us everything. Honestly, massive inspiration checking out your guys' operation here. So the first question I have is, Riot currently has 2 locations. One is in New York, one in Texas. Do you plan to hold both locations? Do you plan to merge? Do you plan to expand on both of them? And then what are the different purposes of both locations?
So let me give a little backstory here. So when Riot started, we had a facility in Oklahoma City. It was 12 megawatts. Sounds small now in the kind of industrial area of Bitcoin mining, but it seemed huge back then. So we operated that facility for a while, and then in the middle of 2020, we decided 2 things. One, we needed to expand beyond that facility. We wanted to have lower cost, and we wanted to own our own infrastructure and become fully vertically integrated. Well, that doesn't happen overnight. So while we were out there in the market looking for infrastructure to acquire, we were sending our miners, instead of our facility in Oklahoma City, to Coinmint's facility in upstate New York in a hosting agreement. So that's a separate company. They host our miners there. Once we acquired Whinstone, we started building out here, started utilizing the capacity here, and all of our miner shipments have been going to this facility, and that is what the plan will be going forward. As far as how these miners are distributed, it's something we evaluate on an ongoing basis. We think about diversification of assets, we think about regulatory risk, we think about cost of production. So that's an ongoing evaluation. But for all new miners we're receiving, they're being deployed right here in Whinstone at the capacity that we've been building out.
So Whinstone has 300 megawatts in developed capacity. How much of that is being used today, and how much do you think will be used by the end of the year?
So when we acquired Whinstone in May 2021, it had built out 300 megawatts in capacity. We immediately started an expansion plan. So we have more capacity on now, like approximately what, 350?
That's correct.
Yeah, 350 megawatts. So we are deploying all of the miners that we receive here in the capacity we're building out. So based on the expansion schedule, by the end of 2022, well before the end of 2022, we should have 700 megawatts in capacity built out as a part of the expansion that's going on.
Okay, and then out of that 700 megawatts, what percentage of that would be Riot versus hosting?
So right now, Whinstone has approximately 200 megawatts worth of hosting clients. And beyond that, we are building out with our all self-mining deployments are planned beyond that.
So as a stockholder, Texas had some inclement weather just recently. And does Whinstone have electrical storage? And what is the benefits for Texas and for Riot when miners are shut off?
So the way you have to think about this facility is we are a virtual power plant, right? So a lot of people use this term loosely, but how you have to think about it is that because we use power 24 hours a day, we can actually turn this load off and or participate in ancillary services, which should be controlled load response and or load response within the ERCOT system. When there is an infrequency in weather and there is a problem, either cold temperatures, extreme conditions, we have the opportunity to support the grid by actually reducing our power consumption. This year in particular, Jason made the choice after we discussed it. He led the charge immediately prior in a voluntary way. We issued a letter to Governor Abbott, and on Tuesday, during this storm, we actually started to curtail our power, and we actually stayed off until yesterday. We brought in a little bit of power, a little bit at a time, and we're going to be back up to full load probably at the end of today. And I think the important component to that is this wasn't a weather event like 2021. This wasn't a $9,000 a megawatt event. This was a $50, $60, $70 megawatt event, $10 megawatt event. This wasn't an economic benefit, but having foresight and understanding good corporate citizenship to support our community and our employees. Like our first component was get our employees home safe, make sure they know they were going to be paid. Everyone was sent home, and the message was there will be no financial impact to you. I came to Jason and said, hey, we're sending everybody home and we're paying them. And he's like, absolutely.
Yeah, and so when the miners are shut off, so Texas or ERCOT, they bought back electricity.
No, so I think there's a misconception in how power works. We have a long-term secured PPA or long-term power contract. That power contract requires an excessive amount of liquidity and capital to secure it against future margin calls. And for that, we have the opportunity, because we have a guaranteed price, we have the opportunity to always have that secured price. So if the market does have a higher price at the moment, our power is used at that point. So it's differently than a lot of people think, but it's because of this long-term contract and how we actually secure it, like financially.
Okay, and then I know that, so this location, Whinstone, has a very, very low electrical cost. So are you 100% dependent with this low electricity cost, or do you guys have any plans for water sustainability, wind sustainability, solar sustainability?
So first off, Whinstone has a very low power cost with the multiple strategies that go into driving that low power cost. Like Chad talked about, long-term, low-cost power purchase agreement, hedging, real-time procurement, ancillary services. There's a lot that goes on to that. Whinstone here, we buy from the ERCOT grid. That grid is a distribution of buyers of power and generators of power. By being participants in this market at the scale that we are, that is helping to build out these other type of renewable generation sources that you're talking about. When you're a generator and you're making a decision on whether or not you want to deploy capital, you're making a calculation on what is the market for the thing I'm producing energy. And Bitcoin miners are those buyers of last resort, and that gives stability to that grid. And while not directly working with a renewable generator source, we are indirectly making their decision and life easier by strengthening the grid that is ERCOT.
So how many miners currently are running in New York? And then how many miners are currently running here in Whinstone?
So right now, it's a pretty even split between the miners at Coinman's facility in New York, here in Whinstone. Approximately 16,000 miners deployed in each location. However, that is changing on a weekly, daily basis as we are deploying. We have thousands of miners that we're receiving on a monthly basis. We have miners in inventory that we're working to get deployed. So Whinstone is going to be the vast bulk of all of Riot's deployments going forward.
Okay, and then in terms of old machines, non-working machines, less efficient machines, what do you do with those?
Riot's fleet right now is basically substantially all the latest generation hardware. We're talking the Antminer S19, the different types of models in that line. Most of our fleet comprises the S19. We have about 4,000 S17s at the Coinmint facility in upstate New York. Machines can be repaired. There's repair services out there. There's a number of things you can do when machines have problems, but we generally have not been getting rid of machines because our entire fleet is just the latest generation equipment.
Okay, and then this is not written, but I noticed a lot of these are S19 Pros. So is your main contract through Bitmain?
Yeah, so Bitmain, industry-leading manufacturer of hardware. All of our hardware is from Bitmain. And we've entered into a variety of purchase agreements since 2019 to purchase miners from Bitmain. We have a ton of S19 Pros. We have a lot of S19J Pros ordered as well. And then we recently ordered almost approximately 30,000 S19 XPs, which was the model that Bitmain announced in November. So all the latest generation from the S19 family, but a little mix of every models, because what they produce changes on a kind of quarterly basis. They produce different models, and we are going off of what's available when we're in the market to buy.
Got it. And so for us, we are we have a smaller facility where we're at, and so we're part of Pool-In, F2 Pool, so it's just the regular big main public pools. Do you guys use a private pool? Did you guys build your own pool? How does that work?
So we use one of the major mining pools. It's for viewers who don't know, mining pools are a strategy to reduce the variance in your Bitcoin production. With our size now, sure, we could probably, if we wanted to, run a private pool and have somewhat consistent results, but there would be a lot of variance to that as well. So it makes a lot more sense to work with an industry-leading pool to decrease the volatility in Bitcoin production so we can have regular monthly strong results.
We are actually in one of the immersion cooling buildings. And so out of all the machines you have here in Texas, what % of your miners are currently in immersion cooling?
What % would you say?
I would say currently right now, if we're using the split of 16,000 between each facility, I would tell you that that would be a 44%. I think 44% is in this building right now. Whether it's onboarded, in the process of onboarding, our process of bringing the machines online.
Wow. And so in terms of, with this being a Bitcoin mining facility, have you ever mined another coin? Would you ever think of mining another project? Or are you currently having one or two machines or a corner or a table full of mining something other than just Bitcoin?
Well, as a company, Riot is a Bitcoin company. So we are focused exclusively on Bitcoin and mining Bitcoin. I think there's probably customers here that have piloted out mining other coins, but our focus is specifically Bitcoin.
I mean, in the back, we do have a guy out there with a pick still. He's digging in the ground. For days, he's been back there.
You might find a Bitcoin eventually.
You might find a Bitcoin in the ground back there. This was a mine at one point, so.
I had to ask. Actually, a few people have asked if there was anything other than Bitcoin to kind of grab a different machine that could be, more power efficient or energy efficient, anything like that. So that's more of a fun.
What I would say is, we're making an economic calculation here. We're trying to generate the best financial results possible, but we're trying to generate the most sustainable and long-term financial results possible, and that's what we see as Bitcoin.
So this was actually asked from Twitter from a guy named Charlie. He is at Crypto Law Dog. His question is, will hosting be a large part of the business, and how are those contracts structured? Short-term, long-term, and is immersion cooling a part of their contract?
So when we acquired Whinstone, we not only took on infrastructure to deploy our own miners, but we've also absorbed the hosting business here as well. We have institutional size hosting clients here, like we talked about earlier, about 200 megawatts of customers. How we divide between self-mining and hosting is something that we're evaluating. It's kind of an ongoing strategic decision that we make. I think what we're demonstrating here with the immersion build out is a strong infrastructure capability, and I think that would drive a lot of confidence with potential hosting customers. As far as how the agreements are structured, a lot of these terms are non-public for really the protection of both companies. But we have a customer who does not want the details of their agreement publicly disclosed. We'll honor that. But so I can't give you too much details on the exact terms of the agreements. But we think the exercise and the expansion here has been more than just building our self-mining capability. It's been demonstrating our building capability. And we think that makes us an attractive partner for institutional size hosting clients in the future.
So this is kind of a fun question. I don't know if you guys have noticed online lately about a miner called the New Miner 440.
All you.
and the only thing I have with that is ... thoughts. What's your thought on that?
I think the best way to think about it, it's super duper simple. When you see something that potentially is better than you could ever imagine, and it's in a press release, err on the side of caution. Just way to describe it, err on the side of caution.
Okay, so next question is from Twitter, from John McClellan. What is Riot's economic impact in Milam County? How much local taxes do they pay going back into the state and community?
So it's easy. It's all public record, right? So we do have a tax abatement, and it's public record at the Milam County Clerk's office. But I think the real way that you have to look at it is, so our company here, that's the footprint here. We have 178 full-time employees. We have 453 full-time contractors that work here. While other counties and cities struggled during economic times, during COVID and pandemic-related issues, this county saw an increase in over 10%, and it's all available online again at the comptroller's office. And what ultimately happened is we increased our wages. Our employees have 401ks. They have paid health care. They have great benefits. And what's happened is in a county that has 25,000 people and a city that has 5,000 people, we are the largest employer, and that impact is seen across the board. We have had the opportunity to change the economic diversification of this community with adding facilities, lighting, repairing the dog facility, changing the way people really look at this. And we have a #1 slugging baseball team, right? We got a under 14 championship team that we sponsor as well, boys baseball, which is baseball and Bitcoin go hand in hand.
So how important is it to hold Bitcoin long term? And how does it feel to have this amount of Bitcoin being mined and held in the United States? But not only that, but with your company.
It feels very good.
That's a great answer.
We have a very long-term bullish view on Bitcoin. We believe Bitcoin is a part of the future of money. It is the future of money. So we have been mining Bitcoin and accumulating Bitcoin at a pretty rapid rate as we've scaled our operations here. And holding Bitcoin on our balance sheet is an important part of our balance sheet strategy. I think it is, as a miner, you are effectively buying Bitcoin at a discount to a market price because of your low cost of production. If you have a low cost of production, if you're competitive as a miner, Bitcoin mining is the ideal tool to accumulate Bitcoin. We're really dollar cost averaging in every day as we mine Bitcoin. So we're going to continue to focus on mining Bitcoin, and we're going to continue to focus on increasing our part of the Bitcoin network. And in doing so, that will be increasing our exposure to Bitcoin.
Yeah, because I looked at some of the latest stats. And so actually during January of this year, you're able to produce 458 Bitcoin versus last year's January 130.
It's a pretty stark difference. I mean, we basically started getting a lot of S19s in towards the end of 2020, and the delivery started really ramping up in 2021. And now that we're here at Whinstone and we have the capacity to expand rapidly, we're deploying thousands of miners here on a regular basis. So yeah, that our hash rate is up quite substantially from a year ago, even though Bitcoin mining difficulty is up by a decent chunk since 12 months ago. We've been able to grow faster than the network has over that time period, so that has led to increased Bitcoin production by a substantial margin.
Thanks. And then the very last question, where do you see Riot in 10 years? And then where do you see Bitcoin in 10 years?
I think Bitcoin is going to completely cannibalize the store of value market in the world. When people think about storing value now, there's a variety of assets they can choose. Some of those I think have long-term appeal, but Bitcoin I think is a superior choice to many of those. I would rather have Bitcoin than gold. Not to say there's anything wrong with gold, there's cool things with gold as well, but with all the properties Bitcoin has, to me, that's a superior store of value. And I think the value proposition is there. It's clear to the world. That's why Bitcoin is growing in adoption. That's why Bitcoin is, the price of Bitcoin has increased, so appreciably over the past, 13 years or so since its launch, starting at nothing, now trading today at 43,000, where the average price has been. So the adoption has grown. The price of Bitcoin has grown alongside that. I think Riot should be a name that people think about when they think about Bitcoin, and especially when they think about Bitcoin mining. I want people to think about Riot as the company that is building the infrastructure and the backbone of the Bitcoin network right here in the United States. And when they think about Riot, they know that's the company that's helped securing the Bitcoin blockchain where I live and where I use Bitcoin.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's a perfect answer.
Thank you.
As always. As always, it's a perfect answer.
Oh,
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You saw the, do not enter private property. So what does that mean in reality? So we are on I call it like a desert island. We have our own security company. We have our own trash business. In the event of, any other type of service here, we have to have all the trained personnel to handle those things. We have a 1,000-gallon water truck, and in the event we would have a fire, that we can begin to take an action and put it out. There's no one we can call.
Okay.
And so that's one of the things that's really important. And then additionally, across the street is one of the largest interconnects in Central Texas. It's called the Sandow Switch. It used to feed both the Luminant plant and the Alcoa smelter, and one closed in 2005 and the other one closed in 2008. And that switch houses Riot's data center's 750 megawatt metered switch. If you notice, there's a double poles across the street. Those double poles are actually the transmission that we built in 2020. Those double poles back across our property, and we brought it into our substation. In 183 days, we built building A, 300 megawatts of substation, and half of building B, and we turned that power on June 3rd, 2020.
Oh man, that's recent.
Yeah, no, it was just a minute ago.
We started about 11 months ago.
Yeah. And so if you look at the buildings, each of our metal buildings are 63,000 square feet. Building A has 64,000 S9s in place.
How many?
64,000.
Jesus. That's awesome.
64,000.
Wow.
And so you'll kind of notice the building A and B are identical. They look identical.
Why do you guys use S9s?
So that's a hosting client of ours.
Okay.
And that was the original client that we earned as a customer, for them to be a customer of ours. And that's just what they had at the time.
What do you guys prefer to use yourselves?
So we are a user of the S19 miner by Bitmain.
Nice.
And so you notice each one of these buildings are very, very similar on both sides. You'll notice they have louvers, and when we walk inside, you're going to notice that there's evaporative cooling walls. That's what's behind those louver systems.
How big are each one of these transformers?
Each one of the transformers, you'll notice they're
25.
noted at 2,500 kVA. And they're set in sequence of 4 transformers at a time. So
That's awesome.
you'll notice 4 transformers, and then
I got one
the switch gear and your load interrupters.
I got one small one. I felt like I was doing big things.
You are doing big things.
You are
I'm
doing
trying.
big things. So I think
This is an industrial scale. Don't make yourself feel small.
yeah. So I want to help you with that.
Okay.
Ashton
acquire
Harris and I
us?
started with 1 miner. Okay,
Yeah.
we started with 1 miner, just like everyone else. Jason started mining like on your computer.
Yeah.
Like
That's how I started.
like everybody starts the same way. We just happen to get super excited and like be passionate about what we do and figure stuff out.
Figure out how to make it big.
Another group that we work
We
with.
don't disclose that partner, but we work with a partner with experience in immersion, NESS, and the Whinstone team. Collaboratively built the solution in house.
Okay, nice. Because I know Engineered Fluids is out in Texas too.
Yeah, so we don't use their fluid. We actually
Came up to your own. That's awesome.
well, the fluid that we use is from ExxonMobil.
Oh, okay.
And through a process of testing, we learned that you need to use the most expensive oil on the market. And if you do that, in the taping process of the chips,
Yeah.
there's residue that sits on there that makes,
Wears them down.
no, actually makes it foam. And the foam
Oh.
turns into bubbles.
Oh, and that's
And
not
those
good.
bubbles get inside of the immersion.
Yep.
Wow.
Bringing data center stuff before Bitcoin, or
No, I just started researching it off YouTube, and I
Yeah.
thought it was a better idea
The last 10
than
days?
buying properties
Yes.
and doing
Wow.
Airbnbs.
fair?
That made more sense to me.
Yeah.
So
always
if,
been
if you can imagine, in
confused.
May 26th of 2021, Riot Blockchain acquired Whinstone US. And
Okay.
shortly after that, Jason got board approval for us to start this whole expansion. So it's a 400 megawatt expansion, which included 4 additional transformers inside of our main transformation substation. So that gave us 700 megawatts of capacity. We also added an additional transformer. So there's actually 800 megawatts worth of capacity inside of that substation, because one can be a spinning reserve in the event we need to do maintenance. And if in a matter of like a week, we can re-divert the power, because those transformers take about a year to get here.
Okay.
And after that, we then started building on these facilities. And one of the things a lot of people ask along the way is like, why are you building 2 air buildings and 2 immersion buildings? They're like, oh, were you hedging your bets? Did you not believe immersion was the way? We know immersion was the way. The biggest problem that we see is the materials available to do any of this are scarce.
Yeah.
And we knew we could acquire X number of products. And so those X number of products turned out to be 400 plus megawatts of materials. And they broke down into 2 different segments. And so here, this morning we started pouring concrete at 2 a.m. and we poured the remainder of our building E. So they're just finishing up the finishing on it. Where we're gonna go here, 'cause we'll have a problem here in a minute.
So when did you guys say you started mining Bitcoin, like by yourself?
So this facility started mining Bitcoin on June 3rd, 2020.
And then how did you guys get started? Did you guys start it from your garage?
So we originally started in New Orleans.
Wow.
In 2018, 2017.
Nice.
And then did you guys expand and grow with just you and your friends, you guys together, and then,
Yeah,
or
so
did you look
there
for?
There were 4 original people that started. We started in New Orleans. We built a megawatt and like a test megawatt inside of a warehouse that we had, and then we built 5 megawatts. We had a client, and we went from 5 megawatts to 300. And I think like the important component there, which I think a lot of people like forget about, is that when we were like trying to raise money for this facility, originally when we started, like we were raising it when Bitcoin was $3 and $4 and $5 and $6 and $7,000.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it wasn't what it is today.
Not ideal market conditions.
No, it was not ideal market conditions.
So did you guys just organically, naturally able to grow, or did you guys were able to grab in some investors?
We were able to raise money originally, and after we raised money, we had the opportunity. So in around September of 2020, Riot Blockchain came to visit our facility, and they saw an opportunity. Like, we were able to, work together and create an opportunity for both companies. And then Jason put a plan together with his team, and then acquired Whinstone at that point in May. And fixed this.
Now, I do want to give a big thank you to the team over at Riot, as well as Whinstone, and especially Jason and Chad. You guys gave us an experience that was fantastic. It just felt like family. Thank you for the precious time that you have given for not only just the tour, but hanging out with us for a few hours, and then answering questions for this video today. 15 question, 30-minute interview. It's not the easiest thing in the world when you have an entire business to run, but thank you so much for the time, and hopefully you guys appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe. Subscribe on the very bottom left-hand side. And if you like this video, then you'll also like this video. And I'll see you guys later.